Have you ever wondered, if Christianity is based on one God, one Bible, one Jesus, then why are there thousands of different Christian denominations? How can people reading the same book come to such different conclusions? And more importantly, does that mean someone is wrong? This is one of the most honest and sometimes uncomfortable questions people ask about Christianity. Because on the surface, it can feel confusing, even contradictory. Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, Baptists, Pentecostals, Anglicans, Lutherans, all claiming to follow Christ. So what happened? Why didn't Christianity stay united? And what does that mean for truth and for your faith? In the earliest days of Christianity, believers were united around one central truth: Jesus Christ is Lord. But even in the New Testament, we already see disagreements, different interpretations, different practices, different cultural influences. Unity didn't mean everyone agreed on everything. It meant they were centered on Christ despite differences. Human interpretation plays a role. The Bible is a profound and complex collection of texts written across centuries. And here's the reality: people interpret things differently. Even today, two sincere, thoughtful believers can read the same passage and walk away with different understandings. Questions like, how should baptism be practiced? What is the role of tradition? How should church authority work? These aren't always simple. And over time, those differences didn't just stay as opinions. They became separate communities. Historical divisions shaped the church. Some of the biggest splits in Christianity came from major historical events. The divide between Eastern and Western Christianity, the Reformation in the 1500s, cultural and political tensions. These weren't just theological disagreements. They involved power, leadership, language, and even geography. In many cases, denominations formed not just because of doctrine, but because of human conflict. The Reformation changed everything. When reformers challenged the established church, they weren't trying to create thousands of denominations. They were asking important questions. Should authority come from Scripture alone? What is the role of the church in salvation? Can traditions be questioned? But once the door to reform opened, it didn't stop with one movement. Different groups continued interpreting Scripture in new ways, and over time, that led to more and more denominations. Cultural and personal expression. Christianity spread across the entire world. And as it did, it encountered different cultures, languages, and traditions. People expressed their faith differently. Worship styles, church structures, emphasis on certain teachings. Some denominations reflect deep theological differences. Others are simply different ways of practicing the same faith. So here's the difficult question: does this mean Christianity is divided or even unreliable? Some people look at denominations and think, if Christians can't agree, how can any of it be true? That's a fair question. But there's another way to look at it. Despite all the differences, most Christian denominations agree on the core message. Jesus is the Son of God. Salvation comes through him. Love, grace, and forgiveness are central. In other words, there is disagreement on the details, but often surprising agreement on the foundation. Still, the division raises an important challenge. It forces each person to ask, what do I believe and why? Maybe the existence of denominations says less about God and more about us, our limitations, our perspectives, our tendency to divide. But it also reveals something else: a deep, persistent desire to understand truth. Even when people disagree, they're often searching sincerely. So perhaps the real question isn't, why are there so many denominations? But rather, in the middle of all this diversity, can we still find unity in what matters most? What do you think? Do denominations strengthen Christianity by allowing diversity, or do they weaken it by creating division? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring deep, honest questions about faith, doubt, and God, make sure to subscribe to Sacred Questions for more conversations like this. Because sometimes, the hardest questions lead us to the most meaningful truths.